It's here! It's finally here! After 3.5 years of waiting, Sabaton has released a new album titled Legends. Sabaton has a reputation for covering unknown or less talked about historical figures, but here they focus on some of the most influential people like Julius Caesar, Genghis Khan, and Napoleon. When it comes to their albums, Sabaton will either focus on a specific time period or a specific theme that spans historical events. The last album they did on the latter was The Last Stand in 2016, which focuses on important last stands in history, and is where you most likely heard their most famous song. For the next two albums after that, they focus solely on stories from World War I, with the Great War coming out in 2019 and the War to End All Wars coming in 2022. I'll not disparage these albums because they are among my favorites, but you have to realize that for nearly 4 years, because they were still releasing EPs of those songs in 2023, the band and music was focused intensely on World War I, and it's likely that both the fans and the band themselves wanted to branch out from there.
We wanted to do something different after having been in World War I era warfare for quite some time. This time, however, we felt like I'm not saying never again, but we're, for now at least, done with World War I, and we wanted to do something different.
In December of 2023, during their yearly 25 Days of Metal Christmas tradition, Sabaton announced that in 2024 they would begin working on recording their new album. But it was then followed by unfortunate news a month later, when their lead guitarist Tommy Johansson announced that he was stepping down. It was a sad day since he was my favorite member and created some of my favorite riffs ever. However, things still looked up when on February 9, 2024, Thub England was revealed as the new lead guitarist in a video where he played a song he wrote, which became the solo for Lightning in the Gates. 2024 was the band's 25th anniversary, so the year was dedicated to celebrating their previous albums and promoting them each month. January would be for Primo Victoria, February for Metalizer, and so on and so forth. Many fans, myself included, predicted that after finishing October, which was dedicated to their 10th and latest album, they'd kick off November by diving full into their 11th album and reveal it to the world, but that didn't happen. Kind of. On November 12th, Sabaton released a teaser announcing a new European tour called the Legendary Tour, with cover art being different. It had an Egyptian pharaoh, Templar knights, presumably Hannibal Barca riding on an elephant, and figures speculated to be Caesar, Napoleon, and Jeanne d'Arc. I have to check the pronunciation of that.
To the channel, how do you say it in French? It is pronounced as Jeanne d'Arc.
Jeanne d'Arc. Thank you, Julian. Immediately, fans began speculating that this was a new album with songs tying into the cover art, and time would prove them right. On July 25th, 2025, Sabaton officially announced the Legends album, slated for October 17th. This is the first album where all the band members had a hand in writing the lyrics. Usually it only... Cut that, I'm really sorry, this is like 11:40 p.m. at night. Usually it is only Joachim and sometimes Parr, but this is also the first album under their new record label, Better Noise Music, although the album was recorded before they signed with them. This is also why they've released 5 songs from the new album, 2 on the same day, compared to just 3 off the War to End All Wars. With these 5 songs, since I've already obviously heard them, they won't be a part of my live reaction, but I will still write a review on them. I'm also very excited to get into this album, as I've been waiting for a few years. Sabaton has also been a part of my channel since the very beginning. 3 out of 5 of my most viewed videos are Sabaton related, so I owe them a lot, and I hope to give back to them by reviewing their new album. Really, I couldn't have done it without them. Also, Sabaton, please make a song about De Gaulle. Finally! We got a song about the famous heroes of Christendom. The Swiss Guard and the sack of Rome of 1527. A perfect complement to their famous song about the Crusades and the Templars, that being The Last Stand. Jokes aside, Templars is a song about the Knights Templar, their rise, fall, betrayal, and slaughter on October 13th, 1307, forever cursing the date of Friday the 13th. Templars is the first song on the track, and also the first one to be released way back in April. Mind you, this is before they announced the new album or anything. I'm gonna be honest, when I first heard Templars, I thought it was kind of mid because I generally like more of the fast-paced songs better, but it grew on me the more I heard it. Also, a lot of people have called it okay or mid, but I like it. I'm sorry. It reminds me of not quite old Sabaton, but middle-aged Sabaton. I get it, because it's in the Middle Ages. Help me. I think the opening is really strong. It's a bit longer, but as I realize it's the first on the album, it makes sense to have a bit of a longer opening. They use the choir throughout the song, which draws you in, even if I'm not sure what they are saying. The lyricism is good and has historical reference to the Templars, of course it does, but they use specific terms and references, like calling them the poor fellow soldiers at the very start of the song. The Templars have also been one of the most misunderstood and slandered groups in history, and from the reception they got on people who know way more about the Templars than me, they seem to bring a lot of justice and praise of the Templars that are overdue. However, in my personal opinion, I find the chorus a bit choppy. The spaces between Knights of Jesus Christ charge from the temple can come off as bit jarring, and it did to me at first. While I've gotten more used to it after a few listens, it still has the same effect, but to a lesser extent. I feel like this shows how Templars will only grow more loved with time. I mean, Sabaton's most hated album was Once the Last Stand, and it has some of their most iconic songs on it. Being the first single release from this album, it was also their first release in about a year, and first non-World War I song in a while, and the first song since Thub replaced Tommy, so I can understand why people weren't as receptive to it. And for now, it's cute. It's a cute little song. It's not my favorite, but it's not bad either. It's definitely above mid.
Wanna tweak your Genghis Khan? Say please.
Words of Khan is the second track and the second single off the album. Wouldn't that make it a double? It tells the story of the mighty warlord Genghis Khan, who expanded the borders of the Mongol Empire from Finland to Korea to Saudi Arabia, making it the largest empire the world has ever seen, and doing it all through bloodshed and battle. Words of Khan conveys this very strongly with its opening. It starts with quiet percussion, then the strumming of a guitar, and the notes of a keyboard come in. And then it jumps into full metal glory. You can experience the feeling of living in your peaceful steppe village, but rumbling is heard in the distance, and then you see one of the most bloody and destructive armies riding right towards you. The rest of the song is energetic and fast-paced, which also gives you the feeling of riding on a galloping horse with the Mongols, ready to conquer the steppes and raid village after village. This song does a good portrayal of Genghis Khan being powerful but also deadly. Lyrics like, "From the eastern steppes of clans, the greatest seat of power, the calling of the wild is strong and carried by the wind. The Mongolian tribes unite to fight under the banner, to crush all opposition and defeat them on the field," show his prowess as a military leader, while the deadlier side of him is emphasized in lyrics like, "Break and crush your rivals, hear them weep and cry, to steal all that they hold dear, to kill their love and fear." The Khan is not to be messed with. However, I do have to dock some points since they rhyme Khan with Khan 4 times in the chorus. I actually really like the music video. I could watch a whole series that mixes Sabaton and Night at the Museum together. And the ending where one of the kids say, "I'm glad I can live in a future where metal exists and war doesn't," totally spits in the face of those people like, Joachim didn't directly say in a song that war is evil, so Sabaton must be pro-war. Overall, it's a great song filled with energy and is able to both pay homage and recount the tragedies of a violent but accomplished leader. Alright, that is the end of my Hordes of Khan review. Now it's time for me to go to bed.
Greetings, Seagull.
Huh? What? Kiwis?
Since you have been such a devoted fan of Sabaton, making great and funny videos of random images over their songs, we have come to you in your dreams to give you the new album.
Oh, thanks, but isn't that illegal?
Worry not, for other reviewers have gotten it early, and you are such a devoted fan. We used this as a gift, but you can only hear it in your dream.
Oh, okay, I'll listen to it anyway. Wait, I'm already awake.
Yeah, about that. We kind of gave it to everyone.
Oh, well, that takes away the specialness of it, but I can't complain. Thank you, Kiwis!
Anytime.
My time has come.
Tiger Among Dragons takes us to the Far East in late Han Dynasty China to warlord Lu Bu, who was known as the Great Tactician, but was also very Machiavellian in the sense that he would betray his allies frequently for his own gain. Chinese Charles de Gaulle. So first up, Tiger Among Dragons. I'm getting into it. A bit of an orchestra. Ooh, the guitar coming in. Alright, so that was Tiger Among Dragons. I think it is pretty good, but it's not really my favorite, if that makes sense. The first part of the song is almost all percussion work, and it stays throughout most of the song, the instrumental focusing mainly on percussion and an orchestra over guitar work. It heavily gives off Soldier of Heaven vibes, but as always, it still is an epic guitar solo. I can totally see the instrumental track and being in something I'd hear. Cut that. I can totally see— what is this sentence? I can totally see the instrumental track being something I'd hear in an action movie, especially the beginning. However, I think the chorus is kinda lacking. They have this line that gives off realize, realize, realize vibe, and I think it just kinda sounds too similar to the bridges and verses. The lyrics also don't really give a full picture of Lubu. I didn't know much about him going into this, but when I left, I was like, okay, he fought people and betrayed his allies, but what makes him so special? I don't hate it as much as others do, but certainly not my favorite on the album.
Both is good.
Crossing the Rubicon is the 5th single. Seriously, wouldn't that be a quintuple? But oh my days, it's so good, you guys! The song focuses on Roman Emperor Julius Caesar and his famed crossing of the Rubicon River, where he began a civil war that would drive out his enemies and secure his power over Rome and his position in the minds of people to come for centuries. The version released on September 12th of this year features Nothing More, and so far that version is my favorite of the singles and probably my top 5 Sabaton songs of all time. Joachim's lower-pitched voice blends very well with Johnny's higher-pitched voice to create a nice contrast, and the feeling that multiple people are singing the praises of Caesar. The key change at the end is probably the best thing I've ever heard, and makes me feel like that image of SpongeBob floating. Oh my god, someone beat me to it with I Emperor. The song also hits me personally because it hit at a very difficult time in my life, last month, but when I heard it for the first time, my mood instantly became better. This song may be specifically about Caesar, but listening to it makes you feel like you can accomplish anything and is the true definition of power metal. However, I will react to the album version live. Crossing the Rubicon album version. Okay, I was about to wonder, like, it's just the instrumental. Joachim singing this part. I'm sorry. Guys, key change. The key change. Rubicon. This SpongeBob ascending meme right here. So there was a lot more differences between the album version and the single version than I expected. Again, when listening to it, I thought I had the instrumental only, but the intro was longer. I can also notice more electronic work in the background, which complements it at some part, but others not so much. The transition between he's the man who crossed it all and dictator on the move kind of feels a bit off. Maybe just because I'm used to the other version, but I feel like the lines are a bit too close together to just have one person singing it. Either way, it's still crossing the Rubicon. It's gonna be an S tier song anyways, but I just like the Nothing More collab a little bit better.
Destiny has brought me this lamb chop.
Bro's jawline was not like that. Finally, the long-awaited song about Napoleon Bonaparte. What introduction could I possibly give Napoleon? Starting out as a simple artilleryman from Corsica, he rose to become the Emperor of the French during its revolution and brought it to an end. When other countries saw the ideas of the French as a threat to their power and began to attack, Napoleon and his marshals used their military genius to crush their enemies. Although he was defeated in the end, Napoleon had accomplished his goal of becoming a figure of legend and one of the most revered military men of all time. Now we have I Emperor, the one that will make the Napoleonic War community go nuts. You can't see it, but I'm bopping my head. Oh, this is awesome. You can't see it, but I'm pogging right now. Oh my god, I would offend you. That's a Machiavelli reference. So that is I Emperor. I wonder if the choir is speaking French in the beginning. Even before that, I really liked the first few seconds of the song, and I wish we got a little bit more of it. The song is also slower, and like Lightning at the Gates, it's structured like a war march. You can picture Napoleon and his army marching through Europe to this beat. Like Brazil did with Smoking Snakes, I would love it if the French were to march to this in a parade. The song is in first person, which is something I wish Sabaton would do a lot more of. Almost every bar begins with "I'll" or "I will" and refers to Napoleon as a fox and a lion, which is a direct reference to the writings of Machiavelli and how a ruler should be cunning like a fox and tough like a lion. This song also seems to take inspiration from Machiavelli's philosophy, which I think is really cool. The lyrics in the bridge change from "all becoming," symbolizing Napoleon invading other countries, to "I'm returning" in the end, references escape and exile in Elba. Also, the refrain where he says goodbye to his old guard, whom he refers to as his children, gets me choked up. It showcases how Napoleon will conquer nations, but it also addresses the French people with lines like "I'll defend you" in references to his Napoleonic code, showing that Napoleon was more than just a bloodthirsty monster. It's also noteworthy that Sabaton has mentioned Napoleon a few other times in the past, usually in the context of "how can we do a song about him? Napoleon is worth a whole album." But I think they conveyed Napoleon's spirit very well. If Sabaton does want to do more songs on Napoleon or the Napoleonic Wars, I'm sure they will all be bangers. Although I'm not really a big fan of slower songs, I will count this as among one of my favorites on the album just because of the concept and execution with the lyrics and style. I can also see the Napoleonic fanbase claiming and making animation memes to this song, or a Napoleon fan-made music video, which will lead many others to discover Sabaton.
Par son peuple avec le concours des armées de la France.
We're staying in France for this one. That's right. Half the songs which are about France are on this album, which is 2 out of 4. You'd think that the country with the most military victories in history, oh my god, that was low-key bars, would have more songs by the band about military history. Sabaton, if you need any suggestions, hit me up. Now we have one of my most anticipated songs from the album, Made of Steel, about Joan of Arc. Straight in. I really like the solo. I like how they use the French pronunciation of her name. I need to get better at that personally, but I like how they did it. Once again, it's peak. To be completely honest, I was a bit worried about this song. You see, Sabaton has 2 songs where women are the main focus. That sounds way worse than I thought, but only 2. Like, one is they are feared by the enemy and will bring death and destruction, and the other is she's a woman! She's a woman and she fought in war! Yeah, I'm not too fond of Lady of the Dark, but thankfully it wasn't like that, and they actually talk about Jeanne d'Arc's accomplishments, mainly how she encouraged the French to fight. This is interesting because it could apply to the time she actually lived in, but it could also apply to French people throughout history who revere her as a symbol of courage and resistance. Look, it's you as a woman! You'll be so— no! Sorry again, look, it's you as a woman! You wanted to be like her, didn't you?
La chanson est délicieusement merveilleuse, mais libérez-moi de l'emprise de cette femme, je vous en prie.
About the sound, it starts really heavy and throws you into the action, the intro literally being Joachim's exhale before he majestically belts out the lyrics. I should also add that on my comment on the lyric video or point out how she became a symbol, the French resistance got kinda popular, but people disagreed with the fact that I consider the French resistance, well, competent in the least bit. But in another discussion I was having, a French guy backed me up on the same subject, and I told him about this comment, and he came to the lyric video and backed me up. I felt like this. So check out C'est la Baguette 1807. I may be pronouncing it wrong, but thank you.
Hey, dude man! I'm a dude man!
Good old Vlad the Impaler. Don't impale me. He has been immortalized in legends and stories for his pure brutality, even serving as the inspiration for Dracula. Now let's see how Sabaton tackles the story. This is definitely darker and gives off a lot of similarities to Rise of Evil. The intro and outro are creepy and set a darker tone for the song because of its subject matter, except the guitar solo feels like a little bit too optimistic sounding for someone like Vlad the Impaler, which is my only complaint at the moment. At first I didn't really like the slower sound that much, but knowing the subject matter I can definitely say it fits. Vlad the Impaler is a part of a period that I don't study all that much, but myself and many others know him as just he impaled people, and he's the inspiration for Dracula. In the lyrics, they emphasize him being the dragon's son, which is a reference to his father, but his title would be the son of Dracul, which is of course where we get Dracula from. The lyrics also give a picture of the place and time he was born into and how his life went. You truly get the feeling of how he was more than just a monster. He was a human, but he was still a monster, which makes him even more terrifying. Anyway, I definitely like this song, but I put it with Rise of Evil and Final Solution because it's not really something I can jam out to while driving or working out because of, However, I think it's perfect for the season since it's almost Halloween, so I will be listening to a bit more. Also, for my fellow writers out there, if you're looking to write a villain and need good music to do it to, I recommend Impaler.
Can your whole body vibrate like Mars himself is shitting on your very existence?
Lightning at the Gates was released with The Duelist on July 25th, the same day the Legends album was announced. It tells the story of the Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca and his attack on Rome during the Second Punic War, doing so by bringing his army through Iberia, over the Alps, and into Italy, although they had a massive fleet of elephants. This crazy but impressive military feat has been cemented in history as one of the greatest accomplishments of antiquity, and it continues to amaze people to this day. Now, all Sabaton songs are recorded with music first and then lyrics are written afterwards, and this was especially written by Thob England. When the rest of the band was listening to it, they always imagined high peaks and mountains and thought Hannibal would be a perfect subject. The song is slower and the lyrics have a similar cadence to a war march, which gives the listener the feeling that they're actually there marching through the snowy mountains on the back of a giant elephant. This song also has a bit of an uplifting feeling to it, especially the guitar solo, which could symbolize that Hannibal's plan is actually working, or the feeling of being high up in the mountains. I especially like the lyric "Guided by the stars light the valley below," which gives a beautiful picture of just walking through the snow that's sparkling because of the starlight. The lyrics are more about the journey than the actual battles and emphasize the inclusion of elephants and refers to them as beasts, which would be more accurate since the average Roman soldier likely never saw an elephant.
But imagine if you were a 20-year-old man who had never seen an elephant in your life. The closest thing you've ever witnessed is like horses, maybe some deer now and then. You get drafted, you go out to battle, you're a little scared, but you've been trained well, you're ready. Then, over the horizon, you see 20 house-sized behemoths with giant tentacles sticking out of their faces, horns longer than your body sticking out of their mouths, all screaming their weird trumpety scream.
Overall, this is probably my second favorite out of the singles besides Crossing the Rubicon. It's a solid song that gets better the more you listen to it. Sabaton mainly focuses on European history. It makes sense, that was the history they grew up learning and are the most familiar with, but with Legends they decide to branch out more. The Duelist was released on the same day as Lightning at the Gates, and it tells the story of Miyamoto Musashi, the Japanese samurai, swordsman, and philosopher who won over 60 duels using the double sword technique. He also wrote his philosophy down in the Book of Five Rings, which is a guide for martial arts, but it's also a guide how one should live one's life and shows how Musashi balanced mental and physical strength. The lyrics focus on his upbringing and the hours of practice he put into his swordsmanship along with his philosophy. I really like the chorus, which goes, "Will you fight or die, immortal Ronin and samurai, into battle his blade held high, see your demise, you can see it in his eyes," which it's just cool. Okay, it encompasses the determination of Musashi and asking the listener if they choose to fight or die. The bridge has a reference to each of the 5 rings. This is a showcase of the strength of a warrior, but also the thinking lifestyle of a great philosopher. It's also another one of their classic guitar-heavy, fast-paced songs, which makes you feel like you were in the center of a duel. However, I think it's partially lacking. It is just as intense it is in the verses as it is in the chorus, which is a pro to some people, but I personally like the chorus to kick it up a bit more. I initially really liked this song when it came out, but I feel like it kind of had the opposite effect of Templars and Lightning at the Gates, where I grew to like those other songs more and this one less. Now when listening to the other songs, I still like it, but not nearly as much.
Ancient Egypt.
This song cured my Pharaoh's curse. Cycle of Songs is set in the 800s BC, which I believe is now the oldest subject matter Sabaton has tackled. It is about the pharaoh Senusret III, who is regarded as an important ruler of ancient Egypt. He not only expanded Egypt's borders, but financed important tombs and temples to be built, which made Egypt's culture and economy flourish. Can only listen to one more album before, or one more song before work. People have been hyping up Cycle of Songs, so I'm gonna listen to that. Are they gonna play the Duduk on here? Where are you gonna get Faria Faraji on this? It's giving like very 80s and 90s. So already it's a lot of talk about how he's like the sun god, but also how he's protecting his people. Or I should say son of the sun gods. Like, just by listening to the song, I can get the feel that at Senusret, he was a very powerful but respected figure. It's giving a lot of 80s vibes, sounding very different from the regular Sabaton track, but in a good way. It also reminds me of Serenity, who's made some great Eastern-focused historical songs. This applies to The Duelist and Tiger Among Dragons too, but I like how they use more Eastern motifs without making it super stereotypical. Like, I was kind of expecting something like this. Or maybe it is stereotypical, let me know in the comments. Like with Vlad the Impaler, I barely knew anything about Senusret or the time he lived in, but hey, that's what Sabaton's for. I'm writing this while just listening to lyrics, and I can tell that he was revered as a divine and respected figure in ancient Egypt, but he also expanded Egypt and conquered other territories. It's definitely grown on me since I've been listening to it a lot, but let's see where it gets in the final ranking.
Gustavus Adolphus, the Lion of the North, Swedish war hero who helped pioneer modern military tactics. I'm getting tested for autism next week.
The final song on this album is called Till Seeger and is about Gustavus Adolphus, who is another song about him called Lion of the North on the Carolus Rex album. Yet he was so important to Sabaton that they decided to go more in depth with him and the battles he fought, which we'll give a listen to. Okay, Till Seeger, because I just heard it come up and it had a pipe organ in it, so I'm immediately gonna listen to it. It's gonna be in Swedish, so I can't like understand any of it, but I know it's about Gustavus Adolphus. Okay! Just sounds energetic. That was so peak. It's 9:30, so I gotta go to work. So far, I think Till Seeger is probably one of my favorites. Till Seeger is such a bop, man. I knew I had to listen to it from the pipe organ intro, and I'm glad I did. Oh my god, I was listening to it on the way to work, and I just couldn't stop smiling. It makes me feel like I'm like a deer prancing through a field of flowers. The lyrics are completely in Swedish with no sign of an English version on the way, but they have been translated. This, of course, talks about Gustavus Adolphus and his battles and has a very hopeful tone to it because it reflects what he did. Gustavus Adolphus took Sweden and turned it into a major European power by being someone his soldiers could follow to victory, which is the title in Swedish. It would also make sense that the song is more joyful since it's a praise to him. This is such a great way to end off the album too. I thought they'd load in all of their good tracks in the middle like they usually do, but this was such a welcome surprise at the end. Great song, definitely going to be high up in my final ranking. If Sabaton does answer my prayers for a song about Philippe Leclerc de Hautecloque, I would want it to sound like this. With other bands, when they'd release an album, I'd expect there to be a few songs I really like, but a lot of ones I think are just mid or just bad. Sabaton is not one of those bands. Sabaton is one of the few bands who make albums I can listen to all the way through with barely any skips. And if there are skips, they're usually because the songs are mid at worst, or I've just played them so much and got tired of them. My favorite Sabaton albums are The Great War, The War to End All Wars, and Coat of Arms in that order. If I were to rank Legends, it would go like from the 2 World War I albums to Coat of Arms to Heroes and then to Legends. It didn't completely wow me like when I listened to War to End All Wars for the first time, but it was better than I expected it to be. I think their lyricism really shines with this one. It can be really poetic at some points, like in The Duelist and Templars, even ones with relatively simple lyrics like I Emperor. They also tell the stories of these people like in The Duelist and Cycle Songs, songs where I felt like I was getting a picture of the people who I haven't really heard much about, and that's something I want from a Sabaton song. I want to go into a song about a subject I didn't know a lot about, and I want to come out knowing something new. With the instrumentals, I feel like each track fits its respective figure very well. Napoleon and Hannibal have slower songs like War Marches, while Jeanne d'Arc and Musashi's are fast-paced like you're in the heat of a battle. And they still keep their original sound, but I feel like they were going for a lot of different styles and branching out from their usual songs. Cycle songs in Tiger Among Dragons are where it's most evident, but songs like Tilseeger and Made of Steel call back to their older styles. Each song sounds unique and different, and I hope they continue to do this experimental style with future albums. Alright, now we get to my final ranking. So this is completely unscripted. You can see this part of the script here. Yeah, it's not scripted, so unfortunately, this will probably upset some people, but in my 11th place, I'm going to put Tiger Among Dragons. Now, there's people that absolutely hate this song. There's people that absolutely will defend this song to the death, but I'm kind of siding more with the people who will defend it to the death because I don't think it's by any means of a bad song. It's just like an alright one with plenty of other great songs on there. Oh, the 10th one. That's gonna be hard. You know, I said I really liked Hordes of Khan, but, you know, I feel like it's gonna have to go in 10th place. Again, you know, it's not that it's bad, it's because it's so many great ones. Then, unfortunately, sorry, Jeanne, I'm gonna have to put Made of Steel here. You know, it's fast-paced, it kind of reminds me of Metalizer, but, you know, I'm not like a Metalizer person. And then there's the Duelist, which is great. I like its philosophy, but, you know, it's kind of not hitting hard with the instrumentals. And then we have Impaler. I think the instrumentals, they give off the vibe like that creepy gothic vibe, intimidating. The lyrics, they teach me something. They're not just, oh, he's scary. It's like, this is his backstory. This is hard. I'm gonna put Cycle of Songs. Again, I really like this one. Taught me a lot like Impaler. The style fits. You know, it just can't get in my top 5. It is like so close. And for number 5, I'm going to put Templars. You know, Templars definitely grew on me, as I said. Templars, like, it's powerful, you know, the instrumental, the choir, everything just blends together. And then I'm going to put Lightning at the Gates. No, it's catchy, it's an earworm, you know, it's giving you the feeling of Hannibal marching across the Alps with the elephants. And speaking of war marches, the one that has been stuck in my head for the past couple days is I Emperor. Again, powerful, you know, it's like, I will defeat you, I will defend you, I will rule you, and it's like, oh, this is exactly what I wanted with the song about Napoleon. You know, he's powerful, it conveys his energy very well in both the instrumental and the lyrics, even though it's a first-person style, it begins with I will, but it's still managed to be pulled off. And then we have Crossing the Rubicon. Now, this is the album version. I like the other version a little bit more. I feel like with this one, I mean, Crossing the Rubicon is still going to be absolutely peak. And then number 1, Tilseeger. I know it is controversial since it's upbeat, but you know, it just makes me happy. I was just instantly hooked, instantly replaying this one, which is something that I wanted with a lot of Sabaton songs. You know, the I can listen to this for like 3 hours and not get tired, because that is what I did with the last album, Dreadnought. This is like my Dreadnought. For honorable mentions, I would put the Crossing the Rubicon, Nothing More. Again, you know, powerful, packs a punch, the vocals are fantastic, instrumentals are fantastic, peak, the key change at the end, it's just so good. It is so peak. It is so peak. I would put it above Tilseeger, and this is my final ranking. I know it's controversial, but you know what? It's my opinion. You know, maybe in a month this will change. Maybe I'll end up absolutely loving Tiger Among Dragons and hating Tilseeger, but that is a month from now. This is just now. This is also after midnight on October 19th, so the album I have been listening to for a couple days because, you know, the Kiwis gave it to me in the dream. Anyway, I loved this album. I feel like it's definitely going to grow on me the more I listen to it, and probably will for others. I'll be blasting it for the next year anyway, and I can't wait to see what Sabaton does next. By the way, I do plan on making more videos related to Sabaton and history in general, so if you'd like to see either of those, please consider subscribing and sharing this video. I am Seagull, and I'll see ya. Also, Sabaton, make a song about De Gaulle, please, or Leclerc.